the Spring framework we have discussed actually. And so before getting into the Spring Boot, we have to understand about the Spring framework and why it is so famous actually. And we have already discussed whenever we studied about your Spring framework actually. And there are certain problems in the case of your traditional approach actually. So in the traditional approaches, that is J2W traditional approaches, what are the components you have studied actually?
JSP
servlets as well as your EJP concept actually. Okay. So before your Spring Boot occurs, okay, before your Spring Boot is developed actually, so we have your Spring framework actually. And before your Spring framework is developed, we have your traditional approach, J2W traditional approach, which is your JSP servlets as well as your EJP concept actually. Okay, JSP servlet as well as your EJP concept actually. So in order to understand the famous of your Spring framework, we have to go to the year 2000 actually. In this time, if I want to create any project in J2W, okay, if I want to create any project in J2W, we always use your J2W components like your JSP servlets as well as your EJP components we are using actually. And at that time, EJP is one of a famous technology you can able to say at that time, before your Spring have occurred, at that time you can able to say EJP is one of the famous technology, and it is provided with many features like messaging, lookup for the entities like that. It will be provided with so many features it was provided actually. But the only problem with that EJP it is very difficult to manage them actually, because in EJP we have three types of beans are available: session bean, entity bean, as well as your message driven bean actually. And in the case of entity bean, what we can do? What is the purpose of entity bean? Yeah.
Map with the database table.
It is mainly used for storing inside the databases actually. Okay. So since we are going to work with the entity, it becomes a heavy object actually. Okay, it becomes a heavy object. So that's where the people comes into a concept called as your framework actually. That is your Spring framework actually. And whenever you develop any Spring framework, we'll be always developing one program. We'll be developing what program? We'll develop
Bean program.
Bean program, or the Bean program is otherwise called as what? Pojo. Pojo actually. Okay. So whatever the feature that is present in the case of your EJP concept, those feature I can able to achieve in the case of your Spring framework just with a single program called as
Pojo or Bean
Pojo class or a Bean class. Pojo class or a Bean class. So in the year 2000, okay, and in the year 2000, if I want to develop any J2W based application, normally we'll be going for this JSP servlets and EJP only. So at that time, EJP is one of the most popular technology you can able to say, and it was provided with so many features like under messaging, lookup, and for the entities like that, it was provided so many features. But since even though I'm going to use my entities and all, it becomes a heavy object actually. So for that purpose, we have introduced a framework called as your Spring framework. And what is an advantage of using the Spring framework now? Whatever the feature that is present in the case of EJP, I can do in my Spring framework just with a simple Bean program or a Pojo class. Just with a simple Bean program or a Pojo class actually. And how I can able to do it? The Spring framework is provided with one important feature called as what feature?
Dependency injection.
Okay. So with the help of this dependency injection, wherever I want to inject it, I can able to inject the values at which time I can able to inject it.
Runtime.
And where I can able to do this injection and all in a separate. And another advantage of using your Spring framework is that the Spring framework can also integrate with other frameworks also. You can able to integrate like Hibernate structs also. I can able to integrate with your Spring framework. So the Spring framework becomes more popular after your EJP components actually, because it provided with a very important feature called as your dependency injection. And if I want to write any cross-cutting functionality in a single place, and if I want to use another program now, what feature my Spring provides?
Spring AOP.
AOP concept, aspect-oriented programming actually. It was provided with your AOP concept also. So and the Spring can also integrate with other frameworks also. It can be integrated, and like Hibernate as well as your structs also it can be integrated. But whenever we talk about the Spring, so Spring is a framework. And as you already told, what I have to do if it is a framework now?
Persisting feed.
No. If it is a framework, means what I have to do?
Download jar files.
Download all the jar files. So one of the problem with the Spring framework is that whenever we are going to build any large application in the case of the Spring framework, we need more jar files are needed actually. Okay, we need more jar files are needed actually. But here, instead of using jar file, what we are using actually?
Form.xml file.
Where the even if I use my form.xml also, in my form.xml I have to provide so many
Dependencies.
Yes, I have to provide so many dependencies. I have to provide it. So whenever you're going to build any larger application in the case of your Spring framework, we need more jar files are needed, and the external configurations, and we have to create a separate XML file. And whenever you create any Bean program, that Bean program should be configured in
XML file.
actually. So we have to write so many external configuration. I have to do it actually. But as a developer, if I'm going to develop any project now, as a developer, I need to focus only on the coding part actually. I should not sit and download the jar files, or I should not do all the external configuration at all. That is one problem with the help of which framework?
Spring framework
Actually. Yes, Spring framework is also one of a successful framework only you can say. But the problem is that as a developer, we need to focus only on the coding part actually, rather than sitting and downloading the jar file and doing all your external configuration actually. So for that purpose only, we have introduced a concept called as Spring Boot framework. Okay, we have introduced a concept called the Spring Boot framework actually. And you should and you can able to say the Spring Boot is not a replacement of your Spring framework. It is not a replacement of your Spring framework. In the Spring Boot also, we are going to use the same thing that is present in the case of your Spring framework only. But what's only one advantage is now in the case of your Spring Boot, we don't need to download any jar files. There is no need to do any external configuration at all. So it will be giving a production ready project. It will be giving. So as a developer, we have to write only the
coding part.
Your Spring Boot will be giving a production ready application. A project it will be giving with all the necessary information it will be giving actually. So as a developer, I have to directly write only the write only the code actually. So for that purpose, only you will be going for your Spring Boot concept actually. So as I already told before, and in earlier days and all, if I want to develop any J2W application, means we always go for a concept called
Spring Boot.
Spring framework.
Guys, listen to my questions properly. In earlier days, asking. In earlier days, if I want to set up any each application, you have to go for
J2W components.
J2W components like what?
EJB
Yes,
servlets.
yes, yes.
Servlet concept actually. But whenever you talk about this EJP is also one of a popular technology at that time actually. But it provided so many features like messaging, lookup for the entity and all. But since we are using your entity, it becomes your heavy object. It will be becoming. And even if I want to insert a single roller, we have to write so many code. We have to write it actually. So for that purpose only, we have introduced a concept called as your
Spring framework.
Spring Framework.
What is the Spring framework now? And whatever the feature that is present in the case of your EJP, I can able to do in my Spring framework just with a single class called as actually. Yeah, and the Spring framework provides a very important feature called as your dependency injection AOP concept like that. It was provided with very important feature, and we can able to integrate your Spring framework with other frameworks like Hibernate as well as your structure. Yes, the Spring framework is also a more successful framework only. But the problem with the Spring framework is that we have to download so many so many external configuration if I'm going to develop any large application I'm going to develop. So as a developer, I need to focus only on the logic or on the coding part actually, rather than sitting and downloading all the jar file and doing all your external configuration. So for that purpose, only we have introduced a framework called as
Spring Boot.
actually. So again, Spring Boot is not a replacement of your Spring framework. Whatever we are going to do in the case of Spring, the same thing only we are going to do in the case of the Spring Boot. But what is an advantage of Spring Boot? A production ready application. Okay, it is going to provide a production ready application. So as a developer, we are going to focus only on the
Writing coding part.
as a developer, we are going to focus only on the coding part. We are going to focus it. We are not going to download any jar file, and we are not going to what is it? We are not going to do any external configuration. We are not going to do it. So for that purpose only, you will be going for a concept called as your Spring Boot framework. You will be for a concept called as your Spring Boot framework. There guys about your introduction
Yes,
to
sir.
the Spring framework.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so now we are going to start with your Spring Boot framework actually. We are going to start with your Spring Boot framework actually. So it is also one of an open source Java based framework to create faster application. So if I want to create any faster application now, in that case you can go for a concept called as your Spring Boot concept actually. So it is also an open source Java based framework. In order to create your faster application, you can go for a concept called as your Spring Boot framework actually. And this Spring Boot developed by a team called as your pivotal team. Okay, it is developed by a team called as your pivotal team. So developed by pivotal team. It is developed by your pivotal team. It was developed. Here guys.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So it is also one of a Java-based framework. In order to develop your in order to develop your faster application, I can go for the Spring Boot framework. I can go for, and it is developed by a team called as your pivotal team. Okay, it is developed by a team called as your pivotal team. And next we are going to discuss about the advantage of using your Spring Boot concept actually. The first advantage, it is easy to understand. It is easy to understand and develop faster application. Okay, it's very simple concept only. Develop faster applications. So it will be always easy to understand. And why we are going for the Spring Boot now, in order to develop your faster application, we can go for the Spring Boot concept. Since it is used to develop your faster application, it is going to increase your productivity. It is going to increase your productivity, and it is going to reduce your development time. Okay, it is going to reduce your development time. It will be reduced, and it is going to increase your productivity of your application. And one more very important advantage of using this particular Spring Boot framework is that, and as I already told before, in the case of your Spring framework, we have to download so many jar files, and what we have to do, we have to do all the
Configuration.
And where we call the configuration.
XML.
One more important advantage of using your Spring Boot is that avoid your XML
Configuration.
Okay, there is no need to go for an XML configuration in the case of your Spring Boot actually. Spring Boot, and everything is going to be auto-configured. Okay, avoid your XML configuration, and in the case of your Spring Boot, everything is going to be okay, everything is going to be auto-configured. We are not going to do any configuration. We are not going to do everything is going to be auto-configured in the case of your Spring Boot concept. And the next advantage of using your Spring Boot is that okay, and actually we didn't study that particular module in the case of your Spring framework actually. And so how many modules does my Spring framework provides?
7
modules. Yeah. So we have discussed only 2 modules called us.
Spring Boot.
Context module. Yeah. We have AOP module, DAO module, OR module, Webflow module, and the last module is called as what?
MVC module.
Actually. And what is that MVC module now? So in the case of your Spring framework itself, if I want to develop any web application based on
MVC architecture.
so
MVC architecture.
MVC architecture. So guys, answer like whenever you're going to develop any web application now, compulsory that should be some. Any idea? Whenever you're going to develop any web application, compulsory that should be some. Okay, what is web application now? What is web application means?
Client side application.
Client and
Backend.
server actually. So we are the client actually. So we are going to give the request to the
Server.
server actually. We are going to give the request to the server. So whenever you're going to develop any web application, obviously there should be some.
Request and response.
Where you will give request? Where you will give request and who will give response?
Client will give request and server will give response.
So who is responsible for giving the response?
Server.
Server actually. So whenever you're going to develop any web application, compulsory there should be a
Server.
server should be there. Okay, that should be a server should be there actually. So if I'm going to develop an EJP application, or if I'm going to develop any and J2W if I'm going to develop any web application based upon EJP concept, or based upon JSP servlets concept, or based upon Spring MVC framework and all, we have to explicitly configure the server actually. Okay, we have to explicitly configure the server. But in case of your Spring Boot is that the Spring Boot comes with your embedded servers. Okay, Spring Boot comes with what? What is embedded server now? What is embedded server? It is by default
Present inside.
inside your embedded server like Tomcat. Okay, so Tomcat server will be there. So this will be the default server. So by default, by default, your Spring Boot will comes with what server?
Tomcat.
Actually, okay, that is your default server. Apart from that, we have Jetty server is there, and we have undertow server. Okay, we have an undertow server will be there actually. But and so that is one of an advantage of using your Spring Boot actually. So if I'm going to develop any web application with the help of JSP or JSP servlets or with the help of EJP or with the help of your Spring framework and all, we have to explicitly configure the Tomcat server. Okay, normally we'll be using your Tomcat server. So we have to explicitly configure your Tomcat server actually. But your Spring Boot comes with your inbuilt server or embedded servers like
Tomcat.
actually. And which server by default it will be coming?
Tomcat.
By default it will be coming with your Tomcat server, or else you can able to change to Jetty server, or you can able to change to your undertow server actually. Okay. And the next advantage you can able to say about your Spring Boot is that the Spring Boot is mainly you can able to develop a server-side application. Okay, you can able to say it is used to develop what type of application we can able to develop, use it to develop server-side application, or even in simple words, like I can able to say a backend application. Okay, I can able to develop a backend application. So if I talk about backend application, what my backend application will do, the backend application is going to and to communicate with what? Database actually. Okay, it is going to communicate with your database actually. So if I'm going to develop my JSP servlets, or I'm going to develop my web application with EJP, or if I'm going to develop my web application with the help of your Spring framework and all, we have to separately create your databases. It might be a MySQL database, an Oracle database, it can be any database actually. But another advantage of using your Spring Boot is that the Spring Boot also comes with an embedded database called as a database. Okay, that's what comes with your embedded, or you can able to say a in-memory database actually. Okay, in-memory database called as your H2 database. Okay, it's called as your H2 database actually. So your Spring Boot comes with your in-memory or inbuilt database called as your database called as your H2 databases actually. Okay, and the next advantage of your Spring Boot framework is that okay, so whenever you develop any application, okay, if I have to print something in the console now, what I'll be using? System.out.println that we'll be using actually. Okay, but now I don't want to use my system.out.println. Instead, I want to print in the console using logging framework actually. Okay, so we have a framework called as logging framework actually, like log4j framework and all there. So because if I use my system.out.println and the first time it will be printed, but if I run on the second time now, can I able to see the previously printed information? No, you can't able to exactly. But I want to log all those information. I want to store those information somewhere now. In that, at the time of printing, I want to store information somewhere now. In that case, I can able to go for a framework called as log4j framework actually. So in the case of your Spring or in the case of your EJP and all, if I want to use my log4j framework now, then we have to configure all the dependency in your pom.xml file. We need to configure manually. We need to configure actually. But another advantage of using your Spring Boot is that the Spring Boot comes with your default logging framework. Spring Boot comes with Spring boot logging boot starter logging which supports default logging framework like logback SLF4j. Okay, so as I already told before, like and if I want to print anything now, I'll be going for a system.out.println actually. But if I use my system.out.println now, only one time I can able to see. So if I want to store that and printed information now, we'll be going for some logging framework. We'll be going actually. So in the case of EJP, in the case of your Spring framework and all, we have to separately configure your
Logging framework.
What we have to configure for login framework? What we have to configure?
In pom.xml, we have to.
In pom.xml, what you will configure?
Dependency.
But in the case of your Spring Boot, the Spring Boot comes with the default framework called as your Spring Boot starter logging framework, and that particular thing will be supporting two frameworks. It will be supporting what are the two frameworks?
Logback.
And SLF4j. So that has an advantage of using your
Spring Boot.
So we do have like some drawbacks also. Okay, we do have like some drawbacks also. The first drawback is that migration effort is not straightforward. It's not straightforward. So what is the migration effort is not straightforward now? Consider I have already developed one application in my Spring framework. Now I want to convert that application, or I want to migrate that application from Spring framework to the
Spring Boot framework.
So it is not straightforward actually. Directly we can't able to convert from Spring framework to the Spring Boot framework. So we have to do from the
Scratch.
Yeah, from the scratch we want to do it actually. So that is one of the drawbacks in the case of the Spring Boot actually. And as I already told before, the Spring Boot comes with some embedded.
So
We have a Tomcat server is there, Jetty server is there, undertow server is there. Like that, we have different types of embedded servers are available actually. But if I want to develop my Spring Boot application in other servers, okay, developing Spring Boot application in WebLogic or WebSphere. These are the other servers actually. Okay, WebSphere servers is not straightforward. Again, it is not easy to convert your the Spring Boot application that is running in your Tomcat server to your WebLogic server or it is not straightforward actually. And the next drawback in the case of your Spring Boot is that the Spring Boot is mainly developed to keeping your microservices in your mind actually. The cloud application, the microservices as well as your cloud application in your mind. We are developed the Spring Boot framework actually. Normally, for a simple application and all, there is no need to go for a
microservice.
For simple application, there is no need to go for which framework?
Spring Boot.
Spring Boot framework. So Spring Boot is developed keeping microservices and cloud platform in mind. So if I'm going to develop any cloud application or if I'm going to develop any microservice application, it is always a suited language, suited framework will be what?
Spring Boot.
Spring Boot.
So if I'm going to develop a very simple application, there is no need to go for your Spring Boot actually. So these are the three drawbacks in the case of your Spring Boot framework. So migration effect, it is not straightforward. So converting an existing application to your Spring Boot application, it is not an easier task actually. And similarly, deploying your Spring Boot application in WebLogic as well as your WebSphere is also not a straightforward thing actually. And the Spring Boot is completely developed by keeping your microservices as well as your cloud platform in the mind. And so if I want to develop any normal application and all, there is no need to go for your
Spring Boot.
The next, we are going to discuss the difference between your Spring framework as well as your Spring Boot framework actually. Okay, we are going to discuss about your difference between the Spring framework as well as your Spring Boot framework actually. The first difference in the case of your Spring Boot framework is that Spring framework is that it is used to develop develop both your client as well as what application? Client plus
Server side.
okay, I can able to develop both your client as well as what server side application. I can able to develop with the help of your Spring actually. But in the case of your Spring Boot, will always develop what application?
Server side.
Okay, use it to develop server side based on REST API. Based on REST API. So your client is going to give some request. Your server is going to process some request and it's going to give the response actually. Okay, so it is always used to perform a server side application. If I want to perform, in that case, I can able to go for a framework called as your
Spring Boot.
Spring Boot actually. And in the case of your Spring framework, what is the main important feature in the case of your Spring framework?
Dependency injection.
Dependency injection. The main important advantage of using a Spring framework is your dependency injection. And as I already told before, what is your main feature in the case of your Spring Boot is that auto configuration. In the case of your Spring Boot actually, okay, everything is going to be auto configured in the case of your Spring Boot actually. So that is the main important feature of your Spring Boot is that it is auto configuration actually. And the Spring framework is always used to develop a loosely coupled application. Okay, loosely coupled application. And as I already before, what is loosely coupled application now? Because we are going to inject all the values at and your and the Spring will create your standalone application with less configuration. So if I want to develop a Java based standalone application with less configuration, I can able to go for a framework called as your
Spring Boot.
And the next difference between your Spring framework as well as your Spring Boot is that in the case of your Spring Boot, we write lot of boilerplate code. Okay, we'll be writing lot of configuration. I'll be writing actually. So we'll write lot of boilerplate code. We'll be writing actually. But in the case of your Spring Boot, it reduces your boilerplate code. It reduces your boilerplate code actually. And the next differences between your Spring as well as your Spring Boot is that we have to explicitly configure your explicitly configure. If I want to develop any web application, I have to explicitly configure what?
External Spring Boot.
Server.
A server actually. You have to externally explicitly configure your server actually. But your Spring Boot comes with
Embedded server.
Embedded server.
with your embedded server. And if I want to develop any web application, again we have to explicitly configure what?
Database.
Database actually. So we have to explicitly configure with your database actually. So doesn't provide with in-memory database. So we don't have any in-memory database in the case of your Spring framework, but your Spring Boot comes with
Embedded. Assembly.
so what is your database?
H2 database.
Okay, let's do it. And the next difference between your Spring as well as your Spring Boot is that developer manually configure all your dependency in which file?
XML file.
What XML? Configure dependency in pom.xml file. So I have to search and find every dependency and I have to configure the dependency inside your pom.xml file actually. But in the case of your Spring Boot, it comes with a concept called and the starter parent in starter parent. We'll be discussing about this one. Starter parent in pom.xml file. Okay. So Spring Boot comes with a concept called as your starter parent in pom.xml file. And what my starter parent will do now, it is going to internally configure all
Dependency.
Okay, it is going to internally configure all necessary dependencies. Okay, so there's no need to provide one dependency. I don't need to provide it. So I just provided one starter and dependency I'll be providing. So it is going to download all the necessary dependencies related to that particular.
Starter.
So for example, here you can able to see I told an example actually. So Spring Boot comes with your login framework. So if I want to develop a login framework now, I have to define a parent dependency called as a Spring Boot starter. So what this will download now, this will be downloading. So this will be providing all the dependencies related to your. So what are the logging framework it will be supporting?
Logback.
But in the case of your Spring and all, what I have to do, I have to provide a separate dependency for logback. I have to provide a separate dependency for. But your Spring Boot comes with a concept called your starter parent actually. So we'll be providing only one dependency. It will be provided actually. So that starter dependency will internally configure all the necessary dependency related to that particular. Starter parent. Okay, related to that particular starter parent. So that is also one of the difference between your Spring framework actually. And the next difference is that deployment descriptor. Okay, deployment descriptor, or we can able to say a web.xml file. Okay, so whenever you develop any web application, this deployment descriptor or web.xml is a very important file actually. And in the case of your Spring framework, this web.xml is must in the case of your Spring framework. Okay, so compulsory we have to use this web.xml in the case of your Spring framework. But in the case of your Spring Boot, there is no need for. Because whenever you develop any web application, that is your client server application, compulsory there is a need for a file called in the case of your Spring framework. But in the case of your Spring Boot, there is no need to go for your web.xml. And the next difference you can able to say, as I already told before, in the case of your Spring framework, we'll be developing what program we'll be developing? And the program should be compulsory configured inside which file? XML file. It has to be compulsory configured in XML file. So requires bean configuration manually in. Requires bean configuration manually in which file?
XML
XML file. So we have to manually configure your bean inside your XML file. But in the case of your Spring Boot, there is no need for manual configuration. Okay, there is no need for XML configuration. Okay, I don't need to create any XML configuration. There is no need to create in the case of your Spring Boot actually. So these are the main differences between your Spring as well as Spring Boot. Okay, these are the main differences between your Spring as well as your Spring Boot concept actually. Okay. So now, as I already told before, the seventh point actually. Okay, the main advantage of using your Spring Boot framework is that the Spring Boot provided with your
starter parent
dependency. Okay, it will be provided with your starter parent dependency. And what that starter parent now, if I try to give my starter parent now, it is going to download all the necessary. I told some other thing. Dependency related to that particular one actually. So we don't need to configure all the dependency. There is no need to configure. So we have to configure only one starter parent will be provided. So that starter parent will be downloading all the necessary dependencies related to the parent. Okay, so now we are going to discuss about that one only. That is called Spring Boot dependency management. Dependency management. Okay, the next topic we are going to discuss is we call it Spring Boot dependency management actually. So what is the Spring Boot dependency management means? Spring Boot dependency management means it is going to manage your dependencies and configuration automatically. Okay, dependency and configuration automatically. Configuration automatically. And for that purpose, what we have to provide now? We have to provide your Spring Boot starter
Parent.
starter parent. Okay, so we have to provide it with your Spring Boot starter parent, which is going to provides all default configuration for your application. Default configuration for your application. Okay, so as I already told before, now your Spring Boot will comes with your embedded server, embedded databases. So all these things and all, it's going to be by default provided with the thing called as your Spring Boot starter parent actually. Spring Boot starter parent actually. And one more advantage of using the Spring Boot starter parent is that no version conflict actually. Okay, that will so avoid version conflict. Okay, you will be avoiding what concept actually? Avoid your
Version conflict.
For example, as I already told before, the Spring can able to integrate with your other framework. I can able to integrate. For example, and I want to store something into the databases now. I have to go for which framework? I have to go for
Hibernate.
Hibernate. So now I'm going to use my Spring framework as well as my Hibernate framework. I'm going to use it actually. Okay. So consider if I'm going to use my Spring version as 4 version, and if I use my Hibernate version as 5 version, now obviously it leads to a conflict actually. So if I use my Spring version 5 now, Hibernate also we have to use what version? 5 version actually. So if I use a wrong version now, then obviously it will be and your application will not be built actually. Whenever you give your NVN clean install, it will always showing a build failure. But in the case of your Spring Boot, there is no need to provide any version actually. There is no need to provide any version. Okay, because it avoids your version conflict. Why it avoids your version conflict now? No need to provide version for the particular dependency. Okay, there is no need to provide the version for the dependency actually. There is no need to provide a version for the dependency actually. But we have to provide, so as I already told before, we have to provide only
Spring Boot starter parent.
what the starter parent will provide. It is going to provide all your and the basic dependency that are needed to develop your application. Okay, it is going to provide all the basic dependency that are needed to provide your dependencies actually. Okay, so there is one important point. If we add parent without any dependency, so I'm just going to add which one? Parent without any dependency. So extra dependency I'm not going to provide it. I'm going to provide only your Spring Boot starter parent only. I'm going to provide it. I'm not going to provide any extra dependency. I'm going to provide it. So what it will do? It will pull all the default configuration needed to develop Spring Boot application. Okay, so I'm not going to give any extra dependency. I'm not going to give. I'm just going to give only the starter parent. I'm going to give it actually. If I just give starter parent, now it is going to pull all the default configuration that are needed to develop your Spring Boot application. Maybe you can able to say your embedded servers it will be coming, and embedded database it will be coming, the embedded logging framework will be coming. So that and all by default it will be coming whenever you just provided which dependency. Starter parent dependency. Yeah. And in case if I need to perform extra things now, then we have to provide some extra dependency. We have to provide it. Okay, we have to provide some extra dependency. We have to provide it. So always remember, dependency section tells what jars to download. What jars to download. And the parent section tells what version of jars to download. Because for each dependency we are not going to provide any version. We are not going to provide. The version will be providing only in the So whenever you just provide any Spring Boot starter parent without any dependency now, it will pull all the default configuration needed to develop and the Spring Boot application. Apart from this, I can able to provide some extra dependency I can able to provide. So your dependency section tells what jars to download. The parent section tells what version of the jars to download. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Now we'll see how to develop your Spring Boot application. Developing Spring Boot application. There are 3 ways to develop your Spring Boot application. The first way is using your Spring initializer. Using your Spring initializer. Normally we'll be using the first one only. We'll be using where we'll be referring the site called as your http.start.spring.io site. Okay. So if you go to this particular site means. If you okay, that is your first way. Second way, like okay, we'll go for if you type Spring initializer, it will be giving for this https start.spring.io.com. So if you go to this one, in this one we'll be developing what application we'll be developing? Spring Boot application. Normally we'll be using this one only in order to develop your Spring Boot application actually, using your Spring initializer. So you have to refer a site called as your start.spring.io site, and in that particular site we can able to develop a Spring Boot application we can develop. And the second way is that so now in order to develop your Java application, what is the tool we are using actually? IDE tool, what we are using? Eclipse we are using actually. Similarly, in order to develop your and the Spring Boot application, there is one IDE is available which is called as your STS. Okay, the STS is nothing but your Spring Boot tool. So it is nothing but an IDE for my Spring Boot actually. So even you can able to use this IDE to develop your Spring Boot application. And the second one is called as Spring CLI, that is your command line interface. So using your command line also I can able to develop my Spring Boot application. I can able to develop my Spring Boot application. So this is the second one to develop Spring Boot application. The first one and in the browser. Okay, in the browser that we can able to use my Spring initializer. With the help of the Spring initializer, I can able to develop your Spring Boot application. I can develop. Next one, we have to use your Spring Boot IDE. We have to use it, which is part of your STS thing, in order to develop your Spring Boot application. And the next one, on the command line also, we can able to develop your Spring Boot application. And these are the 3 bases we use to develop your Spring Boot application. And normally we'll use which one? Spring initializer. Okay. The next topic we are going to discuss is because we have Spring Boot annotations. Okay, the next topic we are going to discuss is because we have Spring Boot annotations. So we are going to discuss what are the annotations that are present inside your Spring Boot. Actually, there are 3 annotations will be available. The first annotation is we call it core annotations of your Spring framework. Okay, core annotation of your Spring framework. So can you remember guys what are the annotations we have discussed in the case of your Spring framework?
Entity, table.
Hello. I asked in the case of the Spring framework, not in the case of your Hibernate framework.
Auto-wired configuration.
Wait. So auto-wired, in order to do the injection, we can able to go for the auto-wired actually. And in order to avoid the confusion, in order to avoid the ambiguity at the time of auto-wiring, we can go for what annotation?
Qualifier.
Qualifier.
Okay. And in order to make some bean property compulsory should be configured. In that case, you will be going for what annotation?
Required.
Record annotation. Okay, we have an annotation called record annotation. And we have discussed in the case of your Spring, we'll always see what program we'll be creating.
B program.
And the bean program should be compulsory. And in the case of auto-wired, wait. So auto-wired, in order to do the injection, we can able to go for the auto-wired actually. And in order to avoid the confusion, in order to avoid the ambiguity at the time of auto-wiring, we can go for what annotation?
Qualifier.
Okay. And in order to make some bean property compulsory should be configured. In that case, you will be going for what annotation?
Required.
Record annotation. Okay, we have an annotation called record annotation. And we have discussed in the case of your Spring, we'll always see what program we'll be creating.
B program.
And the bean program should be compulsory configured inside.
XML file.
Instead of using XML configuration, we also studied Java-based configuration. We have studied actually. And in the case of Java-based configuration, how you indicate each bean program, I'll be indicating other rate. The collection of beans I'm going to refer to the help of other rate.
Beans.
In the Java-based configuration, the other rate bean program and all will be provided inside a class. And before this class, we provided an annotation called other rate.
Configuration.
Configuration. We have used your other rate configuration. And how you represent your scope? We have represent other rate. Other rate scope. Other rate scope actually. Okay. And the next one, we have some stereotype annotations are available, which is called the other rate. Okay. As I already told before now, guys, like with the help of your Spring or on the Spring and the boot, we can able to the Spring is used to develop both.
Client and server.
Your Spring Boot is develop your server side application. So whenever the client is going to give some request, okay, the request and all will be handled on which side?
Server side.
Server side actually. It will be handled by server side actually. So how my application, how my Spring Boot knows I have to handle that request into that particular and on that particular server side, or for that particular request, what is the response I have to be provided actually. So how I can able to indicate now with the help of an annotation called other rate? Controller annotation. So this controller annotation is the one which is going to and which accepts your
Response.
Accepts what? Request. Then it will process it and give response. And it is going to process it and it is going to give response actually. So that is the purpose of your other rate controller. And apart from other rate controller, we have your services there, we have your other rate repository is there, other rate component is there. So these are we call the stereotype annotation actually. Other rate component is there, and if I want to scan the entire project, we can able to go for other rate component scan. So these are the core annotations that are present in the case of
Spring Boot.
Spring actually. Okay, core annotation that are present in the case of your Spring actually. The next we have your Spring MVC annotation. Okay. So the Spring Boot also supports certain annotations that are present in
MVC.
Also the Spring MVC annotation actually. Okay. So now and as I already told before, the Spring Boot application we can develop
Web application.
Server side.
Server side application.
Server side application actually. And what my server side application will do, it will accept the
Request from the users and it is going to give the response.
Okay, it is going to give the response. And for that purpose, we have to define what annotation?
Controller.
Controller actually. Okay. But this other controller will accept the request, and use response as your view represents what page?
JSP page.
So in case if I want to accept some request and I want to give the response in the form of a JSP pages now, then you have to provide what annotation? Controller. We have one more annotation which is called your other rate REST controller actually. And what is that other rate REST controller now? It is nothing but a combination of other rate controller plus other rate response body. Okay, other rate response body. So what this will do now, will accept the request and use a response as a
Response body.
As a JSON object. Okay, as a JSON an object it will be giving. Okay, it will be giving as a JSON object. It will be giving. That is your response body. Response body is nothing but it returns as what?
JSON
object actually. So controller now will accept the request and use a response as a JSP page. It will be giving. REST controller now is nothing but a combination of other rate controller plus response body, where it is going to accept the request and use a response as a. Okay. Now this controller or the REST controller which is going to accept the
Request.
and it is going to give the response actually. So how I can able to identify the request or how I can able to pass the request actually. In order to pass the request, we have an annotation called other rate.
Request mapping
actually. Okay, other rate request mapping, and inside your bracket I'm going to give value slash and ABC some request I'm going to give it. So now I'm going to give a request called as what request slash ABC. And method is equal to I'm going to give request method dot. It can be a get request or post request or put request or delete request. So I can able to give 4 type of requests I can able to give. What are the type of requests I can give?
Get,
post, or put request. And how I can able to identify that particular request with the help of an annotation called other rate request mapping annotation. So instead of giving other rate request mapping with 2 parameters, the value as well as your method, I can directly give it as other rate get mapping. So instead of giving other rate request mapping value is equal to ABC method equal request method dot get. So I can use an application called what?
Get
other rate mapping value is equal to slash ABC. Okay, I can just give other rate value is equal to slash ABC. Or if I want to give a post request, I can go for
Post
Post
mapping.
mapping.
Post mapping. Yeah, put request now I can go for put mapping, and delete request now I can go for
Delete mapping.
Delete mapping.
okay, I can go for delete mapping. Here I can go request mapping, and in the second parameter I have to give what type of
Request.
okay, I have to indicate what type of request actually. Or else specifically I can able to give you other get mapping, other post mapping, and other put mapping, and the
Delete mapping.
Delete mapping.
okay. So whenever you pass some request, okay, whenever you pass some request, I want to pass some parameters, I want to pass it. Okay, if I want to pass some parameters now, in that case you have to go for an annotation called other
Request parameter.
Request
request parameter annotation. What is the request parameter? Use it to pass parameters in URL in the form of query string, and what is query string? Anything that is transferred between question mark and ampersand. I am not sure like whether you have seen this thing in the URL actually. For example, if you go to your Gmail page and all, if you give your username and password, if you click the submit button in the URL, you can able to see the username and the password will be transferred between your question mark and
Ampersand.
ampersand. Okay. So whatever the parameter I'm giving, if that parameter is transferred between your question mark and ampersand, that type of parameter is called that type of parameter I can access it with the help of what annotation?
Request parameter.
You have to remember all this thing at the time of using the program. I'll be asking this one and all. Okay. So if I want to pass any parameter in the URL in the form of query string now what? Anything that is transferred between your question mark and
Ampersand.
ampersand. So if I want to get that parameter, I have to go for an annotation for other
Question mark and ampersand.
the next annotation is we call it other path variable annotation. Okay, other path variable annotation. So what is the purpose of the path variable annotation? Use it to pass some value in URL, value in the URL, and to retrieve it. So at that, a time of sending request, we need to pass some value in URL, and to retrieve it. For example, how I can able to pass the request with the help of an annotation for other how I can able to pass the request. Request mapping actually. So at the time of sending the request, okay, what is the request I'm sending now slash?
ABC.
At the time of sending the request, I am going to pass my
Value.
what value we have passed over here.
Slash ABC.
My ABC is your request. I am asking what value we have passed along with the request
ID.
and how you will retrieve this particular ID with the help of an annotation called
Path
Get.
variable.
at the rate
Get.
Path
Request
variable.
path variable. Okay, at the rate path variable. Guys, are you listening or not?
Yes.
That's a path variable.
So we are going to send the request with the help of an annotation called
Question mark.
Request mapping.
the request mapping. And what is the request we are passed?
Slash ABC.
ID.
Guys, why? What is the request we are passing?
Slash ABC.
Along with the request ABC, we are going to pass some value called as
ID.
and in order to retrieve this ID, we have to use an annotation called
At the rate.
At the rate path variable.
Path
path
variable.
variable actually. And whenever you are going to pass any value, now always you have to put inside your
Curly
braces.
single curly braces. And what is the request parameter? Now, for example, I'm going to give http://localhost:8080/project/abc. So here the request is what?
Project.
ABC. Now, what is your request we are passing over here? ABC. Along with that ABC, I am going to pass name is equal to Ram, ampersand, age is equal to 20. The age is equal to 20. So this Ram and age is called as what?
Values.
Values.
No. This name and age is called as what?
ID.
Name and age is called as what?
Name and age are values.
Values.
At least study the previous definition I have given. What I have given? Use it to pass what?
Parameters.
Name and age are what?
Parameters.
In the URL in the form of
Query string.
query string, anything that is transferred between
Question
Question mark.
mark.
question mark and ampersand. So here the name and age is transferred between your question mark and ampersand. So in order to get that name and age, we have to go for what annotation?
At the rate path variable.
Variable. Path variable.
Guys,
Request parameter. Request parameter.
guys, are you able to understand or not?
There is a different feature between request parameter.
So how I can able to pass a request with the help of what annotation?
Request parameter.
Now, please listen to the question properly and answer.
Okay.
How I can able to pass a request?
Request mapping.
Request mapping annotation. Okay, and what is the request I'm passing over here?
Slash ID.
Slash only just slash ABC. Okay, I'm just passing a request with the help of an slash ABC request with the help of an annotation called other rate. And if I use other rate request mapping, now in the second argument, I have to provide method equal to request method. Either it's a get request or a post request or a put request or a select request. Or instead of doing like this, specifically I can go for other rate,
Get mapping.
get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, or in all these cases, in all these four cases, what type of request we are sending?
Slash ABC. Slash ABC.
ABC actually. Yeah. All this file use it to pass a request. Okay, all this file are used to pass a request actually. And what is the request we are passing?
Slash ABC.
So now I'm going to give http localhost 8080. This is your project, and under your project, I'm going to pass what request I'm going to pass it?
ABC.
Request. Okay. And in the ABC request, I'm going to pass some
Parameters.
parameters. Okay. And I'm going to pass the parameters between your query string. What is query string now? Between your question mark and ampersand actually. And if I try to pass something in your question mark and ampersand now, how I can able to retrieve this name parameter and age parameter? So for that purpose, you have to use an annotation called other rate.
Path variable.
My God, guys, see here I have already given use it to pass parameter in the URL and anything that is used transfer between, and for that purpose we have used what annotation?
At the request parameter.
And then why you're saying everyone path variable, I'm just discussing only about this other rate request param.
But so if we have to retrieve, then we have to use path variable.
No, I'm talking only about request param. I clearly say it is used to pass parameter. Use it to pass parameter in the URL in the form of very string and retrieve it using what?
Request param.
Request param. Request param. So now I have passed it along with the request. I'm going to pass the parameter between your query string I have been passed actually. Now I want to retrieve this name parameter and the age parameter. I want to retrieve it. So for that purpose, you have to use what annotation? Request param annotation. Now I'm going to send a request. I'm going to send it. Okay, with the help of what annotation?
Request mapping.
Guys, I am asking. I am going to pass the request. How I am going to pass the request? At the time of sending the request, I am going to pass the value directly in the request. I am going to pass the value. What value I am going to pass it? ID. And how I am going to retrieve this ID value from the URL or from the request? How I can able to retrieve it? With the help of an annotation called get method. Hey, what is the problem in understanding this, guys? So how you will be passing the request? Request mapping, get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, select mapping, and all. So in the so whenever you send some request, in that request I'm going to pass parameters in the URL between question mark and ampersand. If I want to retrieve it now, you have to go for what annotation? Request param actually. Now I'm going to send a request with the help of request mapping annotation, and at the time of sending the request, I'm going to pass some value. I'm going to pass it directly in the request. I'm going to pass it. How to retrieve this ID value? What annotation you have to use it?
Path variable.
So if anything that is transferred between question mark and ampersand, now you have to retrieve using. And if anything that is transferred between the curly braces, now you have to retrieve using. Got it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That is your second annotation, that is Spring MVC related annotation actually. And the third annotation we are going to discuss is we call it Spring Boot annotation. The third annotation we are going to discuss is we call it Spring Boot annotation. So this Spring Boot annotation, it is provided with only one annotation called as your Spring Boot application annotation. Spring Boot application annotation. This internally it is made up of three annotation called as configuration plus enable auto configuration and plus enable component scan. Actually. So in the case of your Spring Boot application, the Spring Boot annotation is provided with only one annotation called as your
Spring Boot application.
And it is internally made up of configuration, enable auto configuration, and
Component scan.
So instead of giving this three annotation, you can just provide it with one annotation called
Spring Boot application.
Okay, it is going to provide it with an annotation called Spring Boot application annotation. Clear, guys? So we'll see how to create your Spring Boot project. We'll start with small programs and then we'll try to enhance your programs actually. Okay. Okay. Anyone share your screen?
Yes, sir.
So everyone open your Eclipse and anyone share your screen. Anyone sharing or not? Okay. So as I already told guys, like there are three ways to create your Spring Boot project actually. What are the three ways to create your Spring Boot project?
By using
Spring Initializer. Second one is what?
Spring Boot ID.
Spring Boot ID, Spring Toolsuite ID, and third one is with the help of Spring Boot command line. CLI concept. And as I already told before, and which one we'll be using?
Spring Initializer.
Spring Initializer. Okay. Detach me. After main.java right click. After main.java right click. After main.java right click. Right click. Close all. Close all. Okay. Minimize it. Everyone go to your google.com. Everyone go to your google.com. Everyone go to your google.com. So type it as Spring Initializer. Type it as Spring Initializer. Type it as Spring Initializer. Select the first one. Select the first one. So guys, listen. This is a way you're going to create your Spring Boot project. So each time I won't be saying actually, if I ask to create your Spring Boot project now, the same steps you have to follow in the future also. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So you have to go to your Spring Initializer. In the Spring Initializer, we have two type of projects are there. One is Maven project and another one is Gradle project. I'm talking about project. So there are two types of projects are there. Maven project and Normally we create only which project? Leave it like that itself. Next one, we have three languages are there: Java, Kotlin, and Groovy actually. So we always go for which language?
Java.
You can leave it like that itself. And now we have a Spring Boot version called
Snapshot 3.0.
3.0 is the latest version, but by default it was selected what 2.0. Leave it like that itself. If you want to change it, you can change it. Or my suggestion, you can leave it like that itself. Come down. Just you can leave it like that itself. No need to change anything. Come down. In the project metadata, what is the first one you have?
Group example.
Okay. I'm asking the label. I'm asking what is the first label we have?
Group.
And whenever you create your Maven project line, the group ID what will be providing? Name will be providing. So give it as com.pack. Give it as com.pack. And in the artifact ID, what we are providing?
Name of the project.
Give it as Spring Boot 1. Spring Boot 1. Number 1. Spring Boot 1. Spring Boot 1. Okay. You can leave your name like that itself. You can leave your description like that. You have to change only your group ID and artifact ID. Group ID, you have to give your what is the context? Artifact ID, what you have to provide? So come down. So next we have your packaging. So we have two packaging is there: jar packaging and jar packaging. So as of now we are developing only Java application. We are developing. So we'll be giving the packaging to be what?
Java.
So whenever we develop web application, I'll say you give your packaging. Java application means it is what packaging?
Java.
Web application means it will be what packaging? Okay. So right now we are developing only Java project actually. So the packaging will be jar actually. And in Java we have 18, 17, 11, and 8 version actually. So what version you people are using? You can choose 11 itself because anyway you're using higher version only. You're using so no problem. You can able to use select 11 itself. You can able to select it or 17. If you have 17 now, you can select 17 itself. It's your wish. Okay. Now come to this side. Just go up. And this is very important part. So we have a thing called
Dependencies.
We have a thing called dependencies part. But and as I already told before, do we provide any dependencies over here?
No.
Okay. But as I already told before, even though if I'm not providing any dependency also, by default there will be one thing called as
Spring starter parent.
Spring Boot starter parent actually. So that Spring Boot starter parent will be downloading all the necessary dependencies. It will be download basic dependencies will be downloading. Apart from this, if I want to use some extra dependencies now, then you have to use this dependencies thing, and we can able to choose your extra.
Dependencies.
Okay. Now as I already told before, Spring Boot is used to develop what type of application it will be developing. And what is server side application now? The client is going to give the request to the server is going to handle the request, process it, and give the
Response.
So in which program I am going to process the request and give the response? That program must be annotated by annotation.
Spring Boot application.
No. Now we have discussed which program is going to accept the request and it is going to give the response.
Controller.
So you have to annotate by annotation called controller. If I use controller, now the response will be in the form of.
Request. Response. JSON.
Listen to the question properly. If I'm going to give the annotation as controller, now the response will be in the form of what?
JSON.
This is guys. It will be the response will be in the form of what? JSP page. And if I give REST controller, now the response will be in the form of what?
JSON object.
Okay. So now, if I want to send the request and if I want to give the response now, in that case, compulsory we have to add one dependency. Okay. So as I already told before, the Spring Boot is used to develop what type of application?
Server side application.
So in the server side application, and I have to give the request and I have to get the response. So which program will accept the request and give the response?
Controller.
Controller or
REST
controller actually. So if I use controller, now the response will be in the form of.
JSP.
And REST controller, now the response will be in the form of.
JSON object.
Yeah. So if you want to give a request and if I want to get the response now, compulsory we have to add one dependency. We have to add it. So now everyone click that add dependency button. Click that add dependency button and type web and type in the top left web. So now you can able to see the first one called. What is your first one is?
Spring
And what is the purpose of the Spring Web? Build web. Okay. So okay, no problem. So, so just click it will come over here actually, and you can able to see why we have to go for Spring Web. It is build web, including RESTful application using Spring. It uses what and the server it will be using as a default one. In order to accept the request and get the response, and in order to use my Apache Tomcat server and all, we have to provide one dependency called as your
Spring Web.
Spring Web dependency. Okay, we have to provide one dependency called as your Spring Web dependency. Clear are guys till this?
Yes.
So now, okay, right now I'm going to use only one dependency. I'm going to use it. So after mute your call, guys. So after providing the dependency, okay, in this example I'm going to have only one dependency. I'm going to have. If you want to provide any more extra dependency, again you have to click what button?
Add dependencies.
And whatever the dependency you want to add it, you can able to add it. But right now we are going for only one dependency. I'm going to add it. After adding the dependency, now everyone click your generate button. Everyone click your generate button. Everyone click your generate button. Now the project will be downloaded. Is it downloading? Spring Boot was
Yes, sir.
okay. Because as I already told now, Spring Boot is not a replacement of your. It is just going to give a production ready application. It will be giving actually. So now it has given a production ready application. It has given. Now as a developer, we have to focus only on the
Coding.
Now everyone go to downloads folder. Everyone go to your downloads folder. Click that open file. Click it. It will go to your downloads folder. No, just go to downloads folder. Just go inside. To downloads folder. Everyone go to your downloads folder. Now you can able to see the zip file. You can see.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now right click that zip file. You have to follow the same steps you have to follow. After generating, right click that zip file. Click that extract all button. Extract all. Click browse button. I hope everyone knows where is your workspaces.
Yes, sir.
I hope everyone knows where is your workspaces. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Anyone don't know where is your workspaces?
Eclipse.
Go to your Eclipse. Everyone just go to your Eclipse once. No, not here, ma. Go to your Eclipse. Maximize your Eclipse. Go to file. Switch workspace. Go to switch workspace. Click other ones. Now you can able to see your workspace. You can able to see what is your workspaces. C: users your name dot
Eclipse.
So whatever it is coming for each person, it will be a different thing. It will be coming. So that is a workspace actually. Now cancel. Now go to that. Minimize it. Now go to that. Minimize it. Now go to go to your workspace. C: users users.
Eclipse workspace.
That is your name and dot Eclipse. Now can you able to see all your project? Can you able to see?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now. Okay. Now click select folder. Select folder button. Extract. Select folder button. Extract. Finished now? Is it extracted?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now everyone go to your Eclipse. So once again, can you repeat extract? Right click it. Hitachni, go to the downloads folder. Right click, extract all. Right click, extract all. Browse and go to your workspace. Hey, not here. You just right click. Harish, share your screen, Harish.
We can copy the file which we have downloaded and extract there itself, and we can copy paste it in the Eclipse folder, right, sir?
Why twice work? That's the reason I have directly extracted inside which one.
Okay, okay, sir.
No problem. Even if you do like that also, there is no problem. But why two work actually? So that's the reason directly we are extracting the file itself inside which one?
Workspace.
Workspace itself. Yes, you directly extract here itself, copy it, and you can paste inside your Eclipse also. You can do it your wish only. But instead of doing two work, I'm directly extracting and pasting inside my
Workspace.
Everyone finished, huh?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now everyone go to your Eclipse. Everyone go to your Eclipse. Go to file, import. Type Maven. Select existing Maven project. Select Maven and select existing Maven project. Finished everyone till this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now click browse button. To go to your workspace and select your Spring Boot 1 folder. Come down and select your Spring Boot 1 folder. Double click it. And now click select folder. So now in the projects, you have to see that pom.xml should be selected. Yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now click finish. So now it is importing your project. In your Eclipse.
Sir, can you repeat the steps once again?
What is that? Go to file.
Okay.
Just go to file, import. And in that type Maven. So it will be coming existing Maven project. Select your next, click next. Select your existing Maven project and click next.
Okay.
Now click the browse button. So it will go to your workspace. In that workspace, select your Spring Boot 1 project.
Okay.
And click select folder. And finally give finish. Okay.
Okay.
It will be importing.
Yes, sir.
Click cancel session.
So I'm not getting the.
What is it?
So I'm not getting the pom.xml file. Like I'm not able to import.
Share your screen.
Okay, sir.
Click browse. Select folder. Okay, close it. Cancel. Okay, now go to the downloads folder. Go to your downloads folder. Right click. Extract all. See, it's downloads. This is Eclipse option. Go into that. Hey, just go up. Is this your workspace, Viber?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Minimize. Okay. Select your Spring Boot 1. No, Eclipse option. Okay, only exit. No. Just back. Just come back. Select Eclipse option. Now select folder. Extract. Go into that folder, Eclipse option folder. Now go to your downloads folder. Okay. Now come to Eclipse. Go to file, import. Existing Maven project. Next. Browse. It is not coming for you. Okay, cancel. Now go to file. Switch workspace. Other. Browse. Come to C colon. Okay. Click the new folder option. In the top. New folder. And give the folder name as Spring Boot. Select it. Select folder. It's launch. Okay, don't go 1 minute. Just go to the. No, wait.
Okay, sir.
Just go to your Spring initializer. Go to your Spring initializer. Come down. Hey, give it a jar packaging. Give it a jar packaging. Give it a Spring Boot. Give it S and D capital letter because we'll change the name now. S and D capital letter. Now click generate button. No, go to downloads. Downloads. Right click extract. Browse C code and Spring Boot folder. Now go to Eclipse. Now finish.
Okay.
Is it imported for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now everyone go to the Spring Boot 1 folder. Go to the Spring Boot 1 folder. Go to that folder. Not here in the workspace folder where you extract. No, go to that particular folder. Go to that particular folder. Go into that folder, Spring Boot 1 folder. Go into that particular folder, and on the top leg, use CMD. Use CMD. In top leg, use CMD. CMD. Enter. So what command we have to give?
nvn clean install.
nvn clean install. nvn clean install. Give nvn clean install. So is it downloading the jar files?
Yes, sir.
Sir, can you please tell me the command once?
What command? You don't know. How many times you have done your Spring project? What command you have to give?
NVN clean installer.
nvn clean install.
So you build failure.
Build failure.
Yes, sir.
Immediately it was giving a build failure.
Yes, sir.
Clear your screen?
Yes, sir.
Now, what is the spelling for install, Harish? Check the spelling for install.
Build success, sir.
Huh.
Build success, sir.
Hitashni, what is the problem for you? Hitashni, where I told to give nvn clean install, Hitashni? In system 32 folder, I told to give nvn clean install. Give CMD over there.
Yes, sir. Build success.
Yes, sir. Build success.
Enter, give enter, Hitashni. Close it, close this, close this. Type SCMD over there and give enter. Don't select it, type it. Enter. And now give nvn clean install. So after build to success, what do you have to do?
Update.
Right click your project. Right click your project. Maven update project force update. Once build to success, right click your project. Maven update project force update. I hope everyone getting build to success.
Yes, sir.
So now I
Yes,
just
sir.
again built it.
Huh?
I got build failure, so again I've given nvn clean install.
Okay. Wait, Hitashni. Check over there whether the build is success. It is still downloading.
Build success, sir.
Update it. Wait, Hitashni, wait for you. Build success up. Hitashni, build success up. Okay, if it's build success means do it. Force update. Okay, it's updated. So far, I hope everyone is updated, guys.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if I ask to create the project now, first go to Spring Initializer, give the group ID, artifact ID, jar packaging, add all the dependency, and after that, what do you have to do? Generate the project. After generating the project, what do you have to do?
Extract all the files.
After extracting the project into the workspace. After extracting, you have to
Import the project.
import the project into the Eclipse. After importing, you have to do
MVN install.
NVN clean install. And after NVN clean install, what do you have to do?
Update the
Project. The same steps you have to follow in the future for other Spring Boot projects also you have to follow. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes.
Always go to your Spring Initializer, and in the Spring Initializer, give your group ID, artifact ID, packaging, and add your dependencies and whatever the dependency you want to add it. And after that, generate the project, extract the project, import the project. After importing, you have to give NVN clean install and
Update the
Update the project.
now we've done everything. Now everyone open your form.xml file. Have you opened, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the form.xml, so in the fifth line, you can able to see what tag you can see.
Parent.
Parent tag.
Parent tag. So this we call to be a Spring Boot starter parent. Okay, this we call to be a Spring Boot starter parent. And what version we have used?
2.6.7.
2.6.7.
Actually. And now come to the dependency section. And in the dependency section, that we have used what dependency we have used? Dependency I'm asking. Spring Boot starter
Web.
dependency. Okay, because as I already told you, if I want to handle the request and get the response and all, we have to use what dependency? We have to use Spring Boot starter
Web
dependency. And did I mention any version?
No, sir.
No. But this version, what version it will be downloading? It will be downloading the version.
Default version.
What version? 2.6.7. Actually. So the dependency section tells what jar file to be downloaded, and your parent section tells what version of the jars to be downloaded. What version of the jars to be downloaded. So here we have used the one dependency we have used is equal to Spring Boot starter web dependency we have used because now we are going to develop an application which is going to handle the request as well as your responses actually. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
Now expand your SRC main Java. Expand your SRC main Java. SRC main Java. And inside that you can see com.pack.springboot1. Expand it, and you can see one main class. You can see that is one Java program. You can see. Open it. And this program is what program? Yeah, correct. What program it is?
Main method.
Actually, okay, it is a main class because it is provided with what method?
Main method.
So that's the reason we already told Spring Boot is used to develop a Java-based standalone application. It will be developing because you can see the Spring Boot application is provided with your main class, and this will be the entry point of your program. Okay, this will be the entry point of your program. And before this main class, you can see one annotation. You can see what annotation you can able to see under it.
Spring Boot application.
What are the annotations?
Enable auto configuration. Enable auto configuration.
And as well as other rate enable
Auto configuration.
So instead of giving those three annotations, I can able to provide a single annotation called as your other rate.
Spring Boot application.
This annotation indicates this application is one of a Spring Boot application, and this will be the entry point of your
Application.
Now right click run as Java application. Everyone right click run as Java application. Right click run as Java application. You cancel. You cancel. Now everyone maximize your console. Everyone maximize your console. Everyone maximize your console, and you can able to see your Spring Boot application has been by default started in which started by which server?
Tomcat server.
Tomcat server. In which port number it is started?
8080.
8080. But do we configure any Tomcat server and all?
No.
Okay. But as I already told, whenever you add any web dependency, by default it will be coming with what server?
Embedded
Tomcat server. Embedded Tomcat server actually, and the Tomcat server is running in which port number? 8080. Okay. Now stop that application. In the top layer, you can able to see the red color icon. Now click that red color icon. Click that red color icon in the top layer. Not there. Not there. In the console terminal in the red color square. Not there. Close. Cancel. Close. Yeah, stop. Okay. Double click on the console. Double click on the console. Okay. So I have created your Spring Boot application. A production ready application is there. Now we have to directly write the code actually. Okay. Okay. So your main class, as I already told before, main class indicates is the starting point of your program, and this program is present inside which package? Package actually. Always remember, whenever you create any other programs, that program, whatever the programs you created or whatever the coding you're going to write it should be always inside the. It should be always as a sub package of which package? com.pack. Always remember in the case of your Spring Boot program, if any other package you're going to create it, always that package it should be a sub package of your com.pack. And as I already told before, and I want to the Spring Boot is used to develop your server side application. The server side application I want to handle the request and I want to give the response actually. So if I want to handle the request now, in which program I'll be handling the request? Controller program. Yes. Okay. Now I want to create a controller program. So right click your com.pack.springboot1. Right click your com.pack.springboot1. New class. Right click your com.pack.springboot1 new class. New class. So give the package name as com.pack.springboot1.controller, because as I already told before, whatever the program you created, it should be always a sub package of my com.pack.springboot1. So now I want to create a controller program. So I'm going to give inside a package called com.pack.springboot1.controller and give the name as index controller. Index or example controller. Give it as example controller. Example controller. Finish. Example controller. Finish. Finish, guys. Still this, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, in order to indicate it as a controller, what are the two annotations we have?
Controller and
Rest controller.
Rest controller, actually, yes. But if I use controller, it is going to give the response only in the form of
JSP.
And if I'm going to give rest controller, it is going to give the response in the form of.
JSON
Yes,
object.
sir.
So getting the response in the form of JSP, we'll discuss afterwards. Now I'm going to get the response in the form of JSON only. I'm going to get it actually. So we are going to give what annotation @.
Rest controller.
Before the class, give the annotation called @rest controller and import it. Before the class, give the annotation called @rest controller and import it. Okay. So we have indicated this is a class which is going to handle the
Request.
request and response.
Response.
Okay. In order to give the request, what annotation we have to use it? In order to give the request, what annotation we have to use it?
Request
Request mapping.
Request mapping. Yes. Okay. Now inside the class, go inside the class and type @request mapping. @request mapping. Inside your bracket, value is equal to double quotes / hello. So I'm going to give what request?
Hello.
/ hello, comma. Method is equal to. Now what type of method we have to use it?
Push that.
Now just get request method dot get. Request method dot get. Request method dot get. Method is equal to request method dot get. Import it first. Import it and then it will become. Enter. Okay. Now type public string. Type public string. No, type it. Then only the error will go. Public string. String. How you will type it, Hitashni? Public string. What I can give, you can give any method. You can give. For example, I'll give a method called show message. Show message. Public string show message. Public string show message. And inside that, return welcome to Spring Boot. Return welcome to Spring Boot. Inside the method, just give return welcome to Spring Boot. Hello. I told inside the method. Inside the method, just give return welcome to Spring Boot. Import it. Format it. After importing, format it. Okay. So in this case, if I try to give a request called / hello, now what it will return?
Welcome to Spring Boot.
Welcome to Spring Boot. Yes. Okay. So always remember, in the controller program, I'm going to give the request. So we have to write the logic inside what?
Controller.
No, controller. Okay. Inside the controller, where you write the logic, we have to create some what?
Method.
Methods. Yeah, we have to create some method, and inside that method, we have to write the logic. And before that method only, you have to give what annotation we have to give it?
Request mapping.
Yes. So if I try to give a request called / hello now, it will invoke which method it will be invoking?
Show message.
Show message. And what it will return?
Welcome to Spring Boot.
Yeah. Hitashni, how you create a method? Hitashni, what is your coding standard you have to give? Show. M should be what? Capital.
Capital keys.
Make M to be capital. What you're doing? Make M to be capital letter. Hello. It is camel case, ma. The starting letter should be small letter. Okay. Now copy the same 4 lines. The request mapping, public string to show message, return, copy it and paste it once again. Copy that method with that other request mapping and paste it once again. Okay. @request mapping value is equal to / hello 1. / hello 1. / hello 1. And change the method name public string show. Give it as get message. Public string get message. Public string get message. Public string get message. And return hello world. Return hello world. So the controller is a program where you are going to write all the logic for that particular request I'll be writing actually. So you can able to create different
Methods.
Request.
okay, different method. And before the method, you can able to give the request mapping and you can able to write the logic. You can able to write it. So if I use a request called / hello now, what it will be returning? And if I'm going to return slash hello one, now what it will return?
Hello world.
And this both the method, it is taking what type of request it was taking?
Get method.
Get request it was taking actually. So how we have given a get request with the help of what annotation? At the rate
Get mapping.
request mapping. Okay. So in the first line we are given at the rate request mapping value is equal to slash hello method equal to request method dot get actually. And in the next one, instead of giving such a big one, what I can able to give at the rate?
Get mapping.
So in the second method, instead of at the rate request mapping, just give at the rate get mapping. At the rate get mapping. At the rate get mapping value is equal to slash hello one. You can remove that method is equal to request method dot get. You can remove that method equal to request method dot get. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you can give a request either using your at the rate request mapping, or if I want to be more specific, I can use an annotation called at the rate
Get mapping.
get mapping. Yeah. Now everyone go to your main class and run your program. Everyone go to your main class and run your program. Everyone go to your main class and run your program.
Same thing again.
Okay. Now your application will be started by and which server?
Contact server.
And running in which port number?
8080.
8080. So now your application is started, but I want to give the
Request.
request I have to. So everyone go to your browser. Everyone go to your browser. Everyone go to your browser. Open another tab. Open another tab. So now I'm going to give a request. http:// localhost : what is your port number is?
8080.
Localhost : 8080. What is your first request? Slash
Hello.
Hello.
8080 slash hello. Is it printing welcome to Spring Boot?
No, sir.
Fine.
So do we need to?
Okay, I'll say why it is not printing. Maybe because your port number 8080 will be used by some other person in your system, like will be used by some other thing. So that's the reason you're not getting the output actually. Okay, now go to your Eclipse, stop your application. Everyone go to your Eclipse, stop your application. Everyone go to your Eclipse, stop your application. Okay, so as I already told before, the Spring Boot by default it will be starting with the server called as what server?
Contact
Server, and the Tomcat server will be running in a port number called as what?
8080.
Might be in your system whenever they because 8080 is a common port number of a server actually, web server actually. So that 8080 may be utilized by some other services in your machine actually. That's the reason it is not running actually. So in that case, what I can able to do now, I can able to change the port number. Okay, I can able to change the port number of my Apache Tomcat. I can able to change the port number of my Apache Tomcat. And remember, and always, the Spring Boot by default it is going to read all the configuration from application.properties file actually. So expand your src main resources folder. Expand your src main resources folder. You can see a file called application.properties. Expand your src main resources folder. Can you able to see a file called application.properties file?
Yes, sir.
By default, your Spring Boot will read all the configuration from which file?
Application.properties.
By default, your Spring Boot will read all the configuration from application.properties file actually. And by default, your Spring Boot will start your Tomcat server in a port number called your 8080 port number. 8080 is used by some other person, so we need to change the port number of your.
Contact server.
Where I'll be changing in my which file?
Application.properties.
Okay. So what is properties now? We have studied in Java. Now what is properties classes?
Key value pair.
Even
String.
string.
Yeah, it will be containing key value pair, and both the key value pair should be in the form of.
String.
So now inside your application.properties file, we are going to change the port number. So how I can able to change the port number? Now type it. Server.port is equal to small letter, everything small letter. Server.port is equal to everything small letter. Server.port is equal to 1000. Server.port is equal to 1000. Anything you can give, I'm giving the port number as 1000. So here, no semicolon at all. Server.port is equal to 1000. That's it. So here, what is your key is?
Server dot.
Server.port.
And what is value is?
1000.
Okay. Now save it and now start your application. Save it and run your application. Run your application.
Application failed to start.
I think you didn't stop the application which is already running. You have to stop it.
It is
Update your application's configuration.
Is it the application started in a port number 1000?
yes.
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir. It's like working.
You didn't stop the server which is already running. Stop it. In the top left, you can able to see one red color icon. Click that and click your cross mark. You can see the server which is already running. If it is not started, share your screen. Is it started up for everyone?
Yeah, get out.
1000.
Spring Boot.
Now go to your browser and give localhost : what?
1000.
1000 slash
Hello.
hello. Give it as localhost : 1000 slash hello. And check whether it is printing welcome to Spring Boot.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
HTTP, not HTTPS. Now instead of hello, give it as hello one and check whether it's printing hello world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm facing an issue.
Share your screen.
So this one only we need to terminate, right?
Terminate. Click.
Okay. After that, remove launch.
Click the cross mark. Click the cross mark.
Remove launch.
Click that. Okay. So nothing is there now. Now run it once again.
Again, it is coming.
Go to your application.properties file. Application.properties file. Server spelling.
Yeah.
Now stop this, and keep the cross mark near one. So the console should be empty. Then only you have to run it.
Yes, sir.
Now run in the browser localhost colon 1010/hello1 and hello. No, localhost colon 1000/hello1. Enter. Now give hello1. There also you have given welcome to Spring Boot itself.
Yes, sir.
Check your
Yes.
written hello world. I told to give written hello world.
It is a hello.
The second one is just written hello world. Now stop it and run it once again. No, stop it, run it once again. Stop it, run it once again. Got it, guys? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So now everyone go to your application.properties file. Okay, wait. So in the browser, how you are running? You are giving localhost colon 1000. After 1000, what you are giving actually?
Hello.
What is the
Name of the
Request.
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 The name of the request. But I don't want to give the request directly after your port number. Actually. So always remember, after your port number, always that should be your project name. Okay, after your port number, what it should have?
Project
Project name.
Okay, after the project name only, you have to provide what?
Request.
Yeah. But in this case, now what you can able to see, after your port number, you're directly giving your
Request.
I don't want to give like this. Okay, after your port number, I want to give only your
Project name.
Project name.
don't say as a project name, we'll say it as a context path. Okay, we'll say as a context path. So the context path represents what? Your
Project name.
Project name.
project name. So, project. Someone share your screen. Will represent your project name actually. Okay, so normally whenever you run your application after your port number, you will be having your context path or project name. And after that only you have to give your after that only you have to give your and request you have to give it. So how you are going to give your project name now? Again, go to your application.properties file. Go to your application.properties file. Now type server dot server dot servlet dot context hyphen path is equal to context hyphen path is equal to server dot servlet dot context hyphen path is equal to /app. Anything you can give. So I'm giving my project name as what?
Slash APP.
Slash APP.
Slash app. Okay, I'm going to give my project name as /app. I'm going to give. So in order to change your port number, you have to give a property called server.port property. And in order to provide your context path for your application, I can give my server.servlet.context hyphen path is equal to
Slash APP.
Right.
/app. Okay, I can give server.servlet.context hyphen path is equal to /app. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
So now everyone stop your
Yes,
application. Start it once again. Everyone stop your application. Start it once again. Everyone stop your application and start it once again. Now give localhost colon 1000. After 1000, what do you have to give?
Project name.
Context
/hello. app/hello. And try to give app/hello1 also. After starting, go to the browser and give localhost colon 1000 /app/hello and /app/hello1. Is it printing, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Everyone, is it printing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So as I already told before, if I want to change the port number, you can give a property called server.port property. And if I want to provide the context path for your application, then you have to give a property called server.servlet.
Context
Context
path
path.
equal to.
Okay. Now go to the browser. Now give localhost colon 1000 /app/abc. app/abc. So now what request I'm going to give? I'm going to give a request called
ABC.
ABC.
But do we configure a request called ABC?
No, sir.
No, sir.
What was displaying?
White
label.
Error page.
But I don't want to display any white label error page. If I'm giving a wrong URL now, if I'm going to give a wrong request now, then I want to display some error messages I want to display. I don't want to display my white label.
Error
Error
page.
page.
I want to display some error messages I want to display. I want to display if I'm going to give a wrong URL. So everyone go to your Eclipse, terminate your application. Everyone go to your Eclipse, terminate your application. Okay. Now go to your controller program, example controller.java. Go to your controller program, example controller.java. Example controller.java. So in this program, how many requests I have given?
Two requests.
Two requests. Okay, that is your /hello and /.
Hello, one.
Hello.
Apart from /hello and the /hello1, if I try to give any other request now, then I should not display.
White label.
White label.
Instead, I want to display some error messages I want to display. How I can able to do it now? The first step is that we have to implement an interface called as your error controller interface. So public class example controller implements error controller. Public class example controller implements error controller. Implements error controller. Import it. Implements your error controller and import it. Your public class example controller implements your error controller. Finished up?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. After that, give one enter. After that, curly brace, give one enter. Curly brace, first curly. After error controller, curly brace, give one enter. So I'm going to declare one variable: private static final string. Private static final string. Private static final string. Private static final string. Path, capital letter. PATH capital letter. Path is equal to final public static final string path is equal to path equal to slash error, double quotes slash error, double quotes slash error. So I have declared one variable called as what variable?
Path.
And what value it was containing?
Error.
Slash error. Okay, it contains a value
Slash
called slash error. Now come down. Finish that, guys. Everyone till this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. Now come down. No, down. After the second method. After the get message method. After the get message method, come down. So now I'm going to define another method called public string get error path. Public string get error path. Public string get error path. Public string get error. No, just type it. No request mapping and all. Why not? Just create a method called public string get error path. Public string get error path. And in the return path, capital letter path. No double quotes. Remove the double quotes. We are returning a variable called path. Yes. So if I'm going to give a wrong URL, okay, if I'm going to give a wrong request now, we are going to implement an error controller interface and we are going to override a method, predefined method called as your get
Error path.
error path. And what this get error path method returns?
Error message.
No. What this get error path method returns?
Path.
Path.
The
And
variable.
what the path contains? What value it was containing?
Slash
Slash
error.
error.
Slash error. Okay, slash error. Now come down. We are going to define one more method called as your public string get error message. Come down. We are going to define one more method called public string get error message. Public string get error message. Inside that return requested resource is not found. Return requested resource is not found. Double quotes, yes. Return requested resource is not found. Requested resource is not found. Requested resource not found. Semicolon. And before that method, give the request. @request mapping. @request mapping. @request mapping. Value is equal to path. Capital letter path. Value is equal to path. Comma. Method is equal to request method dot get. Type it fast, guys. Finish that, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as I already told before, if I'm going to give any wrong URL now, I have to implement an interface called as your error controller interface, and we have to override a method called as your get
Error path.
error path.
Error
And what the get error path method will return?
Path.
And what value my path contains?
Slash error.
For the slash error. Okay. So in case if I'm going to give any wrong URL, it is going to automatically invoke a method called get error path method, and this get error path method will return path that is nothing but slash error. And for the slash error mapping, what it was returning?
Requested resource not found.
So whenever if I give hello now, it will print welcome to Spring Boot. If I'm going to give a request called hello one, it will print hello world. It will be printer. Apart from hello and hello one, if I try to give any other thing now, it is going to automatically invoke which method?
Get error.
Get error path. And what my get error path will return?
Path.
Path. The path is nothing but it has a value called slash.
Error.
And for that particular slash error request, what value it will be returning? Request a resource.
Not
Not
found.
found.
Not found.
Okay. Everyone start your application. Everyone start your application. Everyone start your application. Okay. Now give localhost :/app/hello and give hello one app/hello one. Is it printing the output, guys?
Yes, sir.
Now give app/abc. What it was printing?
Requested resource not found.
Requested resource.
Not found.
Requested resource not found.
Is it working for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if I'm going to give any wrong URL, we have to implement your error controller interface, and it will be automatically invoke which method it will be invoking?
Get error.
Get error
Get
path.
error path. And that get error path method will return the path, which nothing but it contains a value called slash error. And for the slash error request, we are going to give what response we are going to give? We are going to give request a resource.
Error.
Not found.
Is it working for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm not getting the error message.
Share your screen. Wrong. Go to your line number 11. Go to your line number 11 and give it a slash error. Path is equal to slash error in small letter. Slash error in small letter. Now stop your application and try it. Stop it and start it and try it. Hello, run your main class. You are running your controller.
So for every time we have to change the port numbers.
No need. Hey, stop it. Stop it. Click the cross mark, Surya. Click the cross mark in the top.
Yes, sir.
In the top layer, you can see the red color icon, and near the red color icon, you can see the cross mark. Here, in the side, where you terminate your project, you can see one red color icon you'll be seeing now.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that one only. Remove one.
Click that cross. Click it. That one only, click that cross.
Yeah, done.
No, it's not done. Click it. Now it is already running. So once again, terminate your application. Stop your red color icon. Once again, click cross mark. Click your cross mark. Your console is free now. Now you run it. So before starting your application, make sure all the application which you already are running, it should be what? Stop actually. Yeah, the application which is already running, it should be stopped. That's the reason I told each time you click that red icon, and after that click that cross mark, so that the console will be empty. It indicates your application is not at all running. Now got Surya.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So now what is the problem? Each time I'm going, and each time what I'm doing actually, whenever if I'm going to do new things in my application, each time what I'm doing actually.
Stopping the application and
Starting the application actually. That I should not do actually. Okay. Each time if I do any changes in my application, each time I'm stopping my application, I'm starting my application actually. I don't want to do like this. Whenever if I do something in my if I do some changes in my program my application should be automatically restarted. Okay, the application should be automatically restarted. I should not each time stop my application and start my application actually. So whenever if I'm going to do any changes in my application, the application should be automatically restarted. So for that purpose, you have to use a concept called as your dev tools. Okay, we have to use what concept we have to use it?
Dev tools.
And what is the purpose of the dev tools now? If I want to automatically restart my
Application.
if I'm going to do any changes in my application, I want to automatically restart my application. So for that purpose, you have to go for an option called as what option? Dev tools option. So everyone go to your Spring Initializer. Everyone go to your Spring Initializer. Everyone go to your Spring Initializer. Spring Initializer. Surya, I told Spring Initializer.
In your browser.
There you go. Spring Initializer is Surya. Spring Initializer. Now click that Add Dependency button. Click the Add Dependency button. So now type Dev Tools. Dev Tools. Now select that option, Spring Boot Dev Tools. Okay. So if I want to see the dependency, now what button I'll be clicking?
Generate.
But if I click Generate button, it will create what?
Another zip file.
It will create another project. It will create. But I don't want a project. I don't want it. I need only the dependency related to Dev Tools actually. So now for that purpose, click the Explore button. Click the Explore button. Click the Explore button. You can able to see your form.xml file. You can see.
Yes,
Can you see form.xml file?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes or no?
Yes,
Now in that
Yes,
come down, you can able to see, come down, not fully, just go up. Go up. You can see the dependency for the dev tools. Line number 25 to 30. Line number 25 to 30. Group ID is org.springframework.boot. Spring Boot DevTools. Runtime and optional is what?
True.
Line number 25 to 30. Copy it. Line number 25 to 30. Copy it. So if I need the dependency alone, you have to click which button?
Explore.
Explore button, and you have to copy the dependency. Now come to the form.xml file. Now come to the form.xml file. Come to your project form.xml file. And inside the dependency section, you can see two dependencies. You can see what are the two dependencies?
Spring Boot.
Starter web and Spring Boot starter.
Start test.
Maybe you can paste it after your Spring Boot starter test. Formatted. After pasting, formatted. So now in the dependency section, you can see three dependencies. What are the three dependencies? Starter web, starter test, and
Start test.
Dev tool.
so once you add any dependency, now what I told.
Update.
Update your project. Everyone update your project. Everyone update your project.
Sir, my network went off. Can you tell me the last step?
Where were you?
So actually after went for the initializer. Yeah.
In the click the add dependency button.
Okay, sir.
So what dependency we have to add it now?
Dev tools.
Dev tool. Type dev tools over there. Type dev tools over there. So it will be coming. Spring Boot dev tools. It will be coming. So if I click the generate, it will create as a new project. It will be generated. But I don't need the project. I need only what? Dependency. So click the explore button. Click the explore button.
Okay, sir.
It will open a form.xml file. It will be opening. In the form.xml file, copy from 25 to 30. Copy from 25 to 30 because it contains the dependency for dev tools. It contains the dependency for dev tools. Copy from 25 to 30. Copy.
Yes, sir.
Copy that now.
Sir, done.
Now come to form.xml. Come to your form.xml and paste it after the test dependency. Paste it after your test dependency. Paste it after your test dependency. Paste it up.
Yes, sir. Done.
Okay. Now update your project. Update your project. Have you updated, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have everyone updated your project?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So now everyone start your application. Everyone start your application. Everyone start your application. Start your application. Everyone start your application. Hey, I told you please check it if it is already started. Click that terminate your application. Surya. Once again, make sure all the console should be free. Then only I can start the application. Everyone start your application. So is it the Tomcat started in port number 1000?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now go and run localhost:1000/app/hello. Localhost:1000/app/hello. Is it printing welcome to Spring Boot?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay. Now go to your example controller program. Go to your example controller program. Go to your example controller program. So it was written in welcome to Spring Boot. Instead, give welcome to Spring Boot programming. Welcome to Spring Boot programming. Welcome to Spring Boot programming. So now I have changed something actually. So now once you save it. Now open the console. Go to your console. Is it all? It is restarting.
Yes, sir.
You can see that thing. It will be coming twice. It will be coming. Is it restarting?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now go to your browser and click the refresh button. Go to your browser and click the refresh button.
Updated, sir. It's going.
Yes, welcome to Spring Boot programming.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. So there is no need to restart your server each and every time. So you have to provide what dependency you have to provide.
Dev
Dev
tools.
Level 2 dependency you have to provide. Then each time you're changing, it will be automatically restarting your
Application.
application. Automatically restarting your application. So for that purpose, you have to go for a dependency called as
Dev tools.
Dev
Dev
tools.
tools.
dependency. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. So from here onwards, is it necessary to each and every time terminate your application?
No,
No, sir.
If, by default, whenever you change something in the program, the application will be automatically
Restart.
Restart.
application will be automatically restarted. Okay. Now the application is running by which server it is running?
Tomcat server.
And what is the default port number? Is? Default port number. Default
Eight
port
zero,
number
eight zero,
080. But here we have changed the port number as what?
Thousand.
We have changed. Where we have changed?
Application not optimized.
Yes, we have changed in what? Application.
Application.
But my recommend is that I don't want, apart from Tomcat server, what are the other servers we have?
Open and open.
Now I don't want to run by Tomcat server. I want to run on a different.
Server.
I want to run on a different server. I want to run it. But right now by default it is running with server.
Tomcat server.
Tomcat server actually. Okay, by default it is running in which server? Tomcat server actually. I don't want to run in a Tomcat server. I want to run in a run by a Jetty server actually. Okay, so for that purpose, you see how to do it actually. Okay, you see how to do it. So everyone open your pom.xml file.
That automatic change is not happening.
Share your screen. Harish, open your pom.xml, Harish. Hey, double click your console, Harish. Double click on your console. Only one time. Okay, minimize it. Minimize it. Have you updated your project?
Yes, sir.
Once again updated. Hey, wait. You made wrong. Hey, guys, I already told now where we have to put the dependency, Harish.
Inside dependencies.
Inside.
Dependencies.
Dependencies. Copy that and paste inside dependencies. Cut it and paste it. Now update your project. Now stop your application. Now run it once again. Okay. Now go to your example controller program. Instead of programming, give it a framework. Now save it. Now it is automatically restarting up. No, wait. Go to your console once.
Yes, sir.
Twice it was started up.
Yeah.
Now go and refresh your browser.
Yes,
Is it updated as framework?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if I want to make my automatic changes to your application, then we have to provide a dependency called as your dev tool dependency. Okay, we have to provide a dependency called as your dev tool dependency. As I already told before, by default your application is running in what server?
Tomcat
Tomcat
server.
Now I want to what is that? I want to run on a different server called as Jetty server. Okay. And everyone go to your pom.xml file.
So for me also not updating, sir.
Share your screen. Go to your pom.xml file. Update your project. Okay, now start your application. Okay, now we'll go to your example. Controller. Change to welcome to Spring Boot alone. Just give welcome to Spring. Now save it.
Yes, sir.
Go to your console. It's restarting now.
Yes, sir.
Double click on the console. Twice time it's happened now.
Yes, sir.
Now go to your browser and give localhost :1000/app/hello. Got it up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so as I already told before, right now we are working on which server we are working?
Tomcat server.
But I don't want to work on a Tomcat server. I want to work on which server?
Jetty or
Jetty or Undertow server. So right now we are going to work on the server called as your Jetty server. We are going to work it. Okay, we are going to work on the server called as your
Jetty server.
So go to your pom.xml file. Okay, so whenever you give a dependency called as web dependency, by Spring Boot web dependency means by default it will be starting with what server?
Spring Boot startup.
Tomcat server actually. Okay, but I don't want to start with Tomcat server. I want to run with your Jetty server. I want to go it. Someone share your screen, guys. Okay. Now go to your form.xml file. Go to your form.xml file. So after, okay, go top. You go to the dependencies part. Go to the first dependency, Spring Boot Starter Web dependency. Go to your Spring Boot Starter Web dependency. So as we have already discussed, whenever we give Spring Boot Starter Web, now by default it will be running in which server? It will be running.
Tomcat
Tomcat
server.
But I don't want to give I don't want to run with Tomcat server. I want to run with the Jetty server. I want to run it. So the first thing is that I have to exclude my Tomcat server from the web dependency actually. So now in the dependency you can able to see group ID org framework.boot and artifact ID we have given Spring Boot Starter. After that line, type it. After that artifact ID, enter. Give exclusions. CLUSTIONS exclusions. Close it. Now inside the exclusions, you enter. Inside that exclusions, exclusion. Enter. You want enter. Inside that group ID. org.spring. Close it. Group ID. Close it. org.springframework.boot. org.springframework.boot. Yeah, small. Next is artifact ID. Spring Boot Starter -Tomcat. Select it so that others can copy it. So inside your starter web, as I already told before, starter web by default it will start with your Apache Tomcat actually. But I don't want to start with your Apache Tomcat. I want to run with a different server. Just select all the 4 lines from exclusions. Just move to this left hand side and select it. Move to this left hand side. Copy from exclusions. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to exclude my which one?
Tomcat server.
Tomcat server. Okay, I'm going to exclude my Tomcat server. Everyone finished?
Yes, sir.
1 minute.
So 1 minute.
Finished, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I have excluded my Tomcat. Now I want to include what?
JD server.
No. Yeah, Jetty server. Yes, we have to include your Jetty server. Now come out of the slash dependency. The next dependency. We have to provide your next dependency. Give slash dependency. Give an extract called dependency outside. Oh, it's a new dependency. So under the group ID. org.springframework.boot. org.springframework.boot. Boot. It's not book. It's boot. Next is artifact ID. Spring-boot-starter-jetty. Spring-boot-starter-jetty. Starter-jetty. Y. Jetty. Select the 4 lines so that others can copy it. So we have excluded the Tomcat dependency and we have included the dependency for which server?
JD server.
Finished, guys? Okay. So now everyone terminate your application and update your project. Terminate your application and update your project.
That's it.
Finished, everyone? Okay. Now everyone start your application.
Sir, I'm getting a single error.
Everyone start your application. Exclusions. Save the program. No. 29th line, close your exclusion. 29 close your exclusion. Now save it. Again in 35 it is spring hyphen, do not double hyphen. Only single hyphen. Save it. Now update your project. So after updating, everyone run your application. And now check in your console. It was started by what server? It was started.
Jetty server.
And what port number?
1000.
Yeah, 1000. So it won't be displaying as a Tomcat server. It will be displaying at what server? No. First you terminate your application, Harish. Terminate your application. Okay. So after updating, just start your application.
Downloading the source.
Okay. Start your application. So is it in the console? Is it displaying as Jetty server is started?
Yes, sir.
Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Harish, no problem. Just run your application, Harish. It's 100%. Run your application. So now it will be started by your Jetty server in a port number called 1000. Again, Tomcat server. Now, update your project once. Now go to your pom.xml. Go to your pom.xml once. Go up. Up. Dependency, group ID, exclusion. Again, 28 let spring -boot -starter. Not double hyphen, single hyphen.
Sir,
Now update your project. Terminate it and run. Terminate it and run. Jetty server is started.
Yes, sir.
sir, I updated the project after terminating the 2 times, but
Share.
Yes, sir. Jetty server is started.
But double click on the console. Why your coverage and all is there. Click that cross mark. Click that cross mark. Touch me.
this one.
It's already running. Again, terminate it. Now press that cross mark. Press that cross mark. Click the cross mark. It should say the console should be empty. Until that, you have to click the cross mark actually. Now run it. Go side and check whether it is started on Jetty server. Go to the side. Again, go to your pom.xml. Fine, line number 26 let is org.springframework.boot. 27. Springframework.boot. Hey, no. In line number 26. Now update your project. First to terminate your application, update your project. Once you terminate, always click the cross mark.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Guys, we'll be seeing the tomorrow session. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay.